Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin Movies. As always, I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the new thriller Greta, starring Isabelle Huppert, Chloe Grace Moretz, and Maika Monroe. I will have to warn you, I'm probably going to spoil this movie in the end because I gotta talk about the ending and how much it bothered me, and not in the good way. So anyway, if you don't want the movie spoiled, I will say that while this movie did have promise, things like common sense and a little bit of silliness kind of hurt it for me. It's not a terrible movie except the ending, because again, common sense. But was it as good as I hoped it would be? No, it wasn't. So I would recommend it rental at best. But anyway, so here I go into the review. What this movie is about is a young woman finds a bag on the subway and it has the owner's address on it. So even though her friend tells her she shouldn't do it, she takes the bag to this person, and it ends up being a lonely widow by the name of Greta, who's very happy that this young woman brought the bag back, and they start to become friends. And then by freak chance, this young woman finds out that this lady's been putting bags out all over the city and was hoping that people would bring it back to him for not so nice reasons. I'm going to give this movie credit where credit is due. When it works well. First of all, this movie goes from zero to creepy in a second. You've seen it in the trailer, though, which is unfortunate. I kind of wish the trailer wouldn't have shown as much as they did. And, of course, I complain about trailers like that all the time. But when Chloe Grace Moretz's character finds those bags, I mean, it goes to everything's nice, crazy, once she finds those bags. And it really worked because the tone of the movie just shifts dramatically, big time. And that really worked. And when Isabelle Huppert is being crazy, it works. Her character being just that dead stare of hers is very scary. Especially in the context of the movie. But then again, there's also scenes where her character's being a little silly. There's a scene involving a private investigator where and I know they're just trying to establish that she's, just nuts. But the way she's dancing around and everything was just kind of, I don't know. I would have rather them stayed with the chilling version of the character versus the sillier side. Chloe Grace Moretz is fine in this. I'm still waiting for her to get attached to a movie, and I've heard that she's been in some things lately that I haven't seen that she's done really well. But I'm waiting to see her do some better stuff. This isn't a terrible movie to be in. But again, it kind of falls apart. And we're going to talk about that here in a second. I don't know if it's Maika Monroe or Maika Monroe. I really liked her in this, but I liked her in movies like The Guest and It Follows. So, I mean, just her character, though at times a little silly and a bit, I don't know if selfish is the right word, but she's on her high horse a little bit. Character-wise. That being said, she has probably one of the more entertaining scenes of the movie near the end. Granted, I saw it coming a mile away, but it didn't make it any less entertaining. So let's talk about what didn't work about this movie. And again, I'm going to get into spoiler territory here, so you're being warned for the final time. The biggest issue I have with this movie is how things would not work this way in the real world. Let me explain. For example, the police in this movie, when they finally get involved, just go, nah, we can't help you. First of all, it takes forever for Chloe Grace Moretz's character to go to the police. And it, she made me, her character didn't think she had enough proof or they would do anything. But she goes to the police, and this is after the character of Greta has been sending text after text and phone calls to her home and her cell phone, and on Facebook putting stuff up, and standing across the street staring at her at work, and just, I mean, she's stalking her. And they call the police, and the police are like, meh, can't do anything. It's like, and then they go into the police, ask for a restraining order, which I'm sure restraining orders do take a lot of process, but the fact that they have all this proof that this woman is stalking them, they would have done something. So that just takes me out of it. It's like, well, they just take the police out of it because, yeah, the police would have solved the issue. And when they do finally arrest Greta near the middle of the movie, let's just say they would have had enough evidence to hold her, but they let her go the next day, and of course don't tell Chloe Grace Moretz's character. They don't want to tell her, well, we can't tell you. It's like, well, I'm going to assume she's out, right? And that just drove me nuts. When it came to the common sense of our main characters, again, they took forever to call the police. They just kept letting this stuff happen. Just kept letting this woman follow them and all this stuff. And oh my God, it just how it all turns out, how they just like do nothing about it other than just like, she's following me for like 2 movies or for 2 hours. Right. So, it felt like 2 movies at times. So yeah, it just felt, I felt like they were just being dumb just to move the movie along. And because I think there's some things in this movie that probably would have been solved. I think that with the way things turned out, Greta would have been caught way before this, because I don't know how many times she's done this, but you at least know she's done it 1 or 2 more times. And I think that she would have been discovered in some way, shape, or form, especially with how much she stalks our main character. She had to have done it to this other character too. So yeah, just common sense, some silliness, and just the lack of somewhat reality hurts this movie. Again, it's not terrible. I didn't hate this movie. I was a little disappointed by it, but I do have to talk about the ending. Okay. Again, big spoiler warning. You have Chloe Grace Moretz's character is taken captive by Greta, and she's locked in this room. And some of this stuff was kind of creepy with involving a box in this room and the piano and the way that Greta is acting about it. And that stuff's kind of creepy. So I'll give the movie credit. But she's locked in this room, and Greta's going to take in her next victim. Someone finds the bag. Well, they don't show someone's faces. I'm just like, gee, I wonder if it's the friend. And sure enough, it is. The friend finds one of the bags and tracks down Greta, right? She has the address. And again, this does lead to one of my favorite scenes of the movie, where the friend drugs Greta. And then again, I know, granted, she changed her hair and stuff, but part of me thinks Greta would have recognized her. But anyway, they don't keep showing the face of the girl, and she's talking with like a Texas Southern, kind of Texas accent. And it's like, gee, I wonder if this is the friend. And sure enough, it's the friend. And her, being a little smart aleck drugging Greta was quite entertaining. But okay, so after a little struggle and everything, she finds Chloe Grace Moretz behind this. It's behind the piano. There's a door hidden. And they decide to put Greta in the box, which again, it's just one of the plot points of the movie, is the box. And they put her in there, and there's 3 latches, but there's no locks to use. And they say, what should we use? Well, there's this whole thing about how Greta's acting to be French, but she's really like Hungarian, I think it was. I think it was Hungarian. And so they find this little Eiffel Tower metal piece and they jam it in one of the locks, right? Into one of the loopholes where a lock would go. And they sit down next to it and they're like, what do we do? Well, we call the police and tell her we got a crazy person in this box, all that, and explain it. Okay, great. So then what happens? Common sense, or lack thereof, kicks in. Chloe Grace Moretz's character all of a sudden goes, and understandably so, she goes, I need some fresh air. I need some fresh air. So will you take me outside and get me some fresh air as we leave this box that isn't really locked? It's just got a little piece of an Eiffel Tower statue stuffed in it. Take me outside. Let's not watch the box at all. Can you take me outside and get me some fresh air? We don't need to worry about her. She won't wake up and get out of the box. And while you don't see her get out of the box, you do, of course, start to see it shake and the Eiffel Tower things start to wiggle out. And it's like, come on. I know they were looking for a shocking ending, but they could have done something different. It would have been crazy if they would have had, Greta had some way to escape the box. Like there was she could go underneath it or something like, and of course, if the main character didn't know that and she was stuck in the box, she wouldn't know. But if she had an escape plan or something, that would have been better. Instead of, let's leave her on her own while we get some fresh air. So she ain't going anywhere. We kind of latched the box. And that's the end of the movie. And I'm just sitting there shaking my head and it drove me nuts. Again, this isn't a terrible movie, but I'm not going to say rush to the theater to go see it. Definitely wait for it to come out on Netflix or rent. It's not a terrible rental. Again, some common sense problems and some silliness problems, but all in all, it's not a terrible movie. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel, like this video. If you have anything to say about Greta, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Until next time, I'm your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds. See you later.